Welcome, everybody, to the other side of medicine. I am Dr. Christosic, and I am glad you are spending some time with us this evening. And we are excited because we have a special guest with us today. It's Cheryl Meyer, and she has a wonderful story to tell. She has gone through living hell before she met natural medicine, functional medicine. She was told by her doctor, that her medical doctor, standard medicine, that she had nothing wrong with her, but she felt terrible. She had joint pains, and I'll let her explain her whole story. But the doctor told her, we're going to prescribe some prednisone, folks. Then that somehow rang a bell inside of Cheryl's mind, and she said, enough is enough. She started to explore some things on her own. And what she found out is the story we're going to hear tonight. So let's go into right now meeting this wonderful woman who's got a lot to share with us. Cheryl, welcome to the other side of medicine.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. You sound terrific. And I love the flowers there. They look beautiful.
My birthday yesterday, so
I'm sorry?
it was my birthday yesterday, so I've lost
Okay, tell us how young you are.
I am 74 years young, and I feel better than I did in my 50s.
Good for you. Yeah, and those flowers are beautiful, and so are you. So thank you for joining us tonight. I believe that our audience is going to love what they're going to hear tonight. You've got an amazing story to tell. I should also let you know, folks, that Cheryl is a published author. She has won 17 awards. Let me say that again, 17 awards for one of her books and 7 for another one of her books. I'm going to let you tell her all about those books and her story. So let's dive in right now. Give us a little bit of background about how you became an author, and tell us the names of the books, and then we'll dive into a little bit more deeper into your story. How about that, Cheryl?
I have them right here. The first one is It Feels Good to Feel Good. Learn to eliminate toxins, reduce inflammation, and feel great again. And then the second book is Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin in Community, because I have a social life, but I am as toxin free as I can be. So my functional doctor asked me to write the second book because she said that was the part her patients weren't figuring out. So I did 5 years of extensive research because I was not going to live a life of pain and pills. And I kept everything in file folders on my computer. And when I finally ditched my pain and started feeling fantastic, I decided at the age of 67 that I was going to go back to school to become a health coach, because I was running into women everywhere who needed what I had learned. I was talking to people at the grocery store and in the dentist's office. So I became a health coach at 68. And because I had everything so organized, when I graduated from health coaching school, they said, do you want to write a book? And I said, it's waiting to be written. I started it in November of 2017, and it was completely done by the middle of January. And it's almost, how long is it? It's 400 pages long, so it literally wrote itself.
Well, we should also mention though that you did have a degree in English, so you did have a background. You graduated from Berkeley and in California, and so you did have that background. And so that was a love for you, wasn't it?
Research was done. So, and essentially, what the first journey from horrific pain and not being able to get out of bed, I had so much pain, to figuring out I tripped into the functional community. Thank God. I listened to 19 symposiums. I made notes, things like what is toxic load and how would I get rid of it and what is leaky gut. And so I dug in, and there's a giant database in the sky called ewg.org. And I looked up every single product I was using to see how toxic it was, and then I found lower toxic items that I traded them out for. And it was a process, but every toxin eliminated was one step closer to health. And so 5 years later, I was on Medicare. I found my own functional doctor, and she took me the rest of the way to no pain. And today, I will always have autoimmune disease, but I have no pain, which is worth all the tea in China.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So what a beautiful story. I really want to dive into this whole element of the toxins in our homes, the toxins in the utility room, under our kitchen sinks, and the bathroom sinks. We're loaded with toxic compounds, aren't we?
I For some reason, I was under the impression that my government was protecting me. And in the beginning, I got really angry. Why weren't they doing anything more? And it's because there's too much money, honey. But I decided that we all need to become armies of one, and we can make change if we don't buy this stuff. So if we all join together, it only takes a 5% shift in buying power for big chemical, big food, big agriculture to start paying attention to us.
And then big pharma. Don't forget big pharma. We don't want to leave them out now. Hey, I love your chutzpah. Your chutzpah. Good stuff. I love it.
You got some. I'm very passionate about this because we need to own our own health and not put up with it. And pharmaceuticals, by the way, they mitigate symptoms. They don't cure a thing. You know, all those things they say at the end of the ads with the speed of light and the tiny little print, those are all the things that go find natural solutions, and you clean up the toxins in your world and your life, and you eat organic and you eat clean, your body can heal without those things. So if you go on a drug, I'm not saying not to, I'm not a doctor, but make sure you also adopt all the healthy habits at the same time and help your body return to balance.
Yeah, like you said, when you clean up your environment, when you get rid of those things that are toxic in your home, especially because I really want to talk about some of those things. You know, we use things routinely in our homes in America without even thinking twice. We grab things out of the underneath the kitchen cabinet. It starts with the dish soap, and then we go to our bathrooms. And we've got scrub things that we use for our bathtubs that are very toxic, and then we're sucking in those fumes. And we're touching these things with our hands, and our skins are highly absorptive. So we are exposing ourselves to dangerous, toxic elements that depress our immune system.
And our bodies our liver is the clearinghouse for all the toxins. And our liver does a really great job until it can't. When it topples over load, it starts stuffing those toxins in your bones and your fat because it doesn't know what to do with them and it can't get rid of them fast enough. So you have to start eliminating them if you want to return to health. And symptoms are a sign that you've already entered toxic load. You don't want to be there. You want to feel the symptom and know you're in trouble and start to react right away. I have a list of 35 things I missed in my own life that were making me feel lousy that I had no idea were.
Give us a few things on that list. Give us a couple.
Little things. When I looked in the mirror in the morning, some days I was puffy and some days I wasn't. And I would think, oh, I'm having a pretty day, or I'm having a not so pretty day. That was the puffiness was inflammation. I woke up more tired than when I went to bed at night. I had terrible chronic fatigue. That's a sign of inflammation. Window because my mind wasn't working like it always had before. And I was a business owner. I had a jewelry business that was selling all the big box jewelers in America. I needed to be able to have my cognizant thinking. Wasn't working right. I had terrible, what I call agita, upset stomach, where I would eat food and it would all be acid reflux. Not normal. When you eat a alkaline diet, that all goes away. You don't need to be taking things to make your acid go away, and it's actually probably low acid, not too much acid that's causing it.
You mentioned something, Cheryl. You mentioned something here that I think we don't want to overlook, and we don't want to just pass by too quickly. When people have symptoms like acid reflux or joint pains, or they've got fatigue, or they've got some of these other symptoms that we're talking about here that are common symptoms that a lot of people listening right now are experiencing, then people think that this is normal. You said you thought they were
That's
normal.
right. They think
This is
it's
not normal.
It's not.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think
I call those symptoms, Cheryl, people that have all those symptoms, they don't have a diagnosis, but they have what I call, they are the walking wounded. They're the walking wounded.
And allopathic doctors, conventional doctors, are trained to hear the symptom, and then down the chute comes the pill. They give you the pill and they send you on your way. They don't, a functional doctor, as you are, they look at the whole body. And if the liver is not working well, it impacts the heart and every other organ in the body. You cannot isolate one body part. You have to look at the whole body. You have to heal the whole body. And that starts with eliminating toxins and cleaning up your food. And they're everywhere. I was appalled. There are 80,000 different chemicals just in cleaning supplies and cosmetics. And 90% of them have never been evaluated for toxicity. Some of them are carcinogens. Some of them are endocrine disruptors. They do all havoc on the body, and the body does a really good job trying to take care of you through all of that until it can't. And when it can't is when you go over into what's called toxic load. You get something called a leaky gut, and I can explain that from a layman's point of view if you want. But then when you're good, things start leaking through your gut, going into your system, and your immune system does exactly what it's supposed to do. It screams, foreigner, and it attacks. So you either get autoimmune disease, like I did, and mine is actually called undefined. There's 140 known autoimmune disease. I had to get one that wasn't named, but I'm closest to fibromyalgia. Or you get cancer, or you get heart disease. They're all chronic illnesses, and they all start at the same place with all the toxins and with the gut problem and with a liver who just simply can't keep up.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier about the toxins storing inside the body. One of the most prominent places that these toxins stores is in fat cells.
Yep.
And it doesn't surprise you when you look at America that 65 to 70% of Americans are overweight. We're storing these toxins in our fat cells, and that's why we're overweight as well. So we've got to wake up to the reality that there is something we can do about it, but we have to take care of our bodies. And I always tell people the body is capable of healing itself. God has placed a power inside the body to heal itself, but we have to help the body. Right. We have to take charge. And most people go to the doctor's office and they think they can drop their bodies off like they do their automobile to the mechanic. And then I'll pick it up in a couple hours. And the doctor accommodates them, whips out the prescription pad with a hyperactive hand, writing the prescription. And then what do they get? More toxins.
Right. Well, the average appointment with an allopathic conventional doctor is 5 to 7 minutes. So they hear the first symptom, and the pill comes down the chute, and you're on your way. I used to walk out and go, wait, I didn't tell her this, and I didn't tell her that. Oh my God, I have more. I didn't want to take drugs. I had two parents that had unusual illnesses, and I watched the impact of drugs on their bodies. That was not going to be me. She told me there was really nothing wrong with me. I said, that's ludicrous because everything in my body hurts. She said, well, I'll give you steroids. I don't want steroids. I want to find out what's wrong. Therapy. And I knew there was nothing wrong with my brain, so I dug in. And
it's unfortunate if they don't know something that shows up on one of their diagnostic tests, and you have all these symptoms, then they automatically, typically, not always, but we'll say it's psychological. You need to go get some counseling. You need to get some therapy. And again, I really want people to understand here that both Cheryl and I agree that there is need for medical intervention. Thank God we have medical intervention. And when we talk about emergencies, trauma specialists are absolutely amazing. If somebody's having an automobile accident and an injury from that, they do miraculous treatments to correct the problems that occur after an accident. Or if somebody didn't take care of their body and they can do a open heart surgery, yeah, that's okay if the person is not willing to make the changes. Because I've had guests on my radio program and my podcast, like Dr. Esselstyn, who's at the Cleveland Clinic, who takes patients that are scheduled for triple bypass surgeries and then literally takes them under his care and cancels the bypass surgery and reverses the heart disease so they never have to have the triple bypass. Dr. Dean Ornish does the same thing. So we need to recognize that, yes, there is a place for medical intervention, but we need to stop people abusing their bodies and not taking care of I call the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
so we got to take care of those.
And just in one other insight, my conventional doctor did not run one test that my functional doctor ran. And to give you an example, ends up I had 18 sensitivities, totally different element, totally different problem. And by eliminating all those sensitivities, it was my first giant step back away from pain. My conventional doctor checked my thyroid from here to here. That was it. My functional doctor checked it from here down to my adrenals. That's where I was broken. So a functional doctor wants to know what's going on with your whole body, and you deserve to hear how they handle that, because it's night and day and it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, well, what we do in functional medicine is we connect the dots with all the systems of the body, and we connect those dots and then figure out what's the underlying cause. And we go try upstream to find the cause of the problem. We try to find the cause. Medicine's treating the downstream effects of the damages that people do because of a poor lifestyle. And then people accept, unfortunately, the mindset that we get disease because of bad genes, bad germs, and bad luck. And that's just bad science. It's all about bad choices.
Well, and epigenetics has now proven that no matter what genetics you inherited, you have the option to turn that light switch on or leave it off by lifestyle habits. Mm-hmm. And people don't accept that. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I got a bad rap, I got all bad genes, there's nothing you can do. Oh yeah, there is. You can turn all that around if you adopt. I have 24 healthy lifestyles that I want people to adopt. But for me, it starts first with food, because if you're not putting the right building blocks into your body that are toxin-free, then your body doesn't have the right building supplies to rebuild all the cells, which it's doing all the time. And then you start eliminating all the other toxins that are literally everywhere.
Okay, what would you say? Let's talk about some of the toxic things that people have in their home, specific things that are common in people's homes. What are some of those toxic things?
Okay, let's start with cosmetics. There was almost no regulation on cosmetics at all until I think it was 2017. There was one law that passed into mascara, and so that got taken out, but the rest of it was not regulated in any way. But in 2017, they made the cosmetic companies regulate themselves. Ducky. So there are still all kinds of nasties in cosmetics. You do want to buy organic, clean cosmetics. You do the ingredients, and I have learned from another environmental toxin expert, you start at the bottom of the ingredients because that's the smallest amount, and you go up the list until you hit something that's toxic, and then you don't want to use that anymore, and you start looking for something that doesn't have those toxins in it. When I started 10 years ago, there were very few choices. Now there are many organic choices for cosmetics. Your skin's your largest organ, and 65% of what you put on your skin goes right into your body and through your liver. So you want to pay attention to this stuff. And things like red lipstick, which I've worn my whole life, is loaded with lead. So you don't want these things in your body. So you need to be aware, you need to take the responsibility, and you need to know. Now, there are some apps now that can help you look up products, which is great. One is Skin Deep, One is Think Dirty, and one is safecosmetics.org. You can actually.
Okay, so let's not go too fast. Let's talk about those. What are they again? Go slower so people can write these things down. What are they called?
Skin Deep, which is actually from the EWG, the Environmental Working Group, who studies all the toxins in all our everyday products.
It's an app. It's an app. You can get the app called Skin Deep.
And you can look up something without looking up all the ingredients like I did. So that's great. If it is considered EWG safe, you can use it. It's gold. The second one that came out is called Think Dirty. You can actually scan the code and have it come up with some kind of a rating as to how toxic.
How do you spell that, please?
Think, THINK, dirty. Think Dirty. You can look up all
SINK?
No, think, like your brain. Think Dirty.
Think Dirty.
Right.
Okay, Think Dirty is another app. Awesome. This is great practical information that people can use every day to look if their things they're using in their home or on their body are safe.
There are endocrine disruptors. There's carcinogens in your cosmetics. They are toxic, loaded nasties that you don't want to be using. So you need to know what's in your products.
What's the third one?
The third one is safecosmetics.org.
Safecosmetics.org. Okay, perfect. So these are really great resources that our listeners can use for their own personal care products and cleaning concentrates and things like that. This is great. Thank you so much for that.
And the other category that's kind of under cosmetics, but it goes across cleaning products too, is scents. Perfumes are proprietary blends. They won't tell you what's in them, and a lot of what's in them is toxic. So you don't want to be using perfume. You don't want to be using air fresheners. You don't even want to be using out of the air because they are loaded with toxins that go through your lungs and your skin and poison your body. So
what are some of the alternatives people use instead of these artificial
organic essential oils, and I use them in a diffuser. And if I really want to put something on my body, I use them in a carrier oil. But I also have to share with you, since I cleaned up all the toxins in my life, I have very little body odor. That shocked me. I had a terrible time with underarm deodorants because they all annoyed me. And I was changing them like every other month because I would start having a reaction to them. I don't even use a deodorant most of the time, but I found one that if I do need it, it's made out of clay and essential oils. And it was developed by a woman who has MS, and it's called Soap Walla. And it's clay and essential oils. It's clean, it works like a charm, and there's no reaction to it that's negative. It's unbelievable.
Does it have a good scent?
It has, yeah, no, they come in different scents. There's one that's...
How do you spell that?
Soap Walla is SOAPWALLA. And she does sell the deodorant on Amazon now. She's come a long way since I first.
That sounds good. Okay, so you've seen Tom's. What do you think about Tom's products?
There are some. There's relatively clean, but they're not completely clean.
Okay, thank you for that information because I really haven't investigated. I always assume that Tom's is good because I've been using them for so many years. I've been using them since the 1970s and late 70s, and I'm going to switch to this lady's products. So.
She also does little tiny hand soaps that I carry in my pocket because we travel a lot. And so I can't use bathroom soaps. They all make my hands break out in rashes. So I carry her little soap bottles in my pocket. So I always have it so that I have clean hands without the eruption of my skin rash.
Do the soaps have nice scents to them as well?
They're essential oils, so they smell good.
Love it. That's awesome.
Came out with a bug repellent. I have a second one that's very low toxin from a company called Keys Pure. They make a bug repellent that soothes whatever the bite and then repels mosquitoes and bugs from there. But Sobola just came out with one that will also kill the bacteria and things on your desktop, your telephone, your chair, and it repels bugs because they're using essential oils in their things. So I'm excited to try that. That just came out.
That sounds really good. These are really good resources that everybody listening could use instead of the toxic things that they're selling over the counter, which they're not being regulated, folks. You got to understand that this is good, solid information you could take to the health bank. That's what we're talking about, the health bank here.
And I want to make one other comment. People, when they first got my book, went, this is overwhelming. I can't do this all at once. It'll break the bank. I'm going to go bankrupt. You don't have to do it all at once. I will, if you buy my book, I will send you a workbook. You write down what you find is toxic and what you want to replace it with when you run out of it. Because every step to a lower toxic product is a step closer to health. So you don't have to do it all the way. Use the old one till you run out and then replace it with a clean one until everything is clean. And then you will notice the difference in your body because you're going to start feeling really good.
Folks, I want you to really pay attention here. We have this woman here who's on fire, has a passion for helping to educate people about the toxic environment we're living in. She's got some really chutzpah to share this information with us. We're so thankful that she's here with us. Right? We're visiting with Cheryl Meyer, and she has gone through the ringer of the medical community, and she found a way to help her body to heal itself. Folks, listening to this program, you know that I preach, I talk about it all the time. God has placed a power inside the body to heal itself. Cheryl, I tell people all the time, and I use this analogy routinely, and I think it's important to really constantly bring it to people's attention. Einstein, it was reported, he said that we only use 10% of the capacity of the human brain. I tell people modern medicine only uses 10% of the capacity of the body to heal itself. Here on the other side of medicine, we unlock that other 90%. So, Cheryl, you're giving good information here today. Let's continue on.
What do you think is the most toxic thing in your house?
In the house?
Yep.
Probably the air we breathe.
Well, it is. Yes, that's true. In fact, the air we breathe, I live in Los Angeles, the air inside our house is supposed to be something like 10 times more toxic than the air outside my house. And since I live in LA, that's saying something. So we have air things that clean the air out in all the rooms that we spend a lot of time in the house, so that all gets, because there's off-gassing. Your carpet off-gasses, your paint off-gasses, your linoleum off-gasses, the glue that holds your linoleum to the floor off-gasses, things that they spray on your furniture for stain repellent, all that off-gasses. You need to be clearing that out of your house all the time so that you're not breathing it into your body through your lungs. But what I was going to share with you is
water.
Water is very toxic, and you should know what's in your water. You can get a water report from your water company, and they will share with you what's in it. And what's in your water is disgusting. All of the pesticides on our crops go down into our groundwater. People throw their pharmaceuticals down the toilet. That all comes out the tap. There are just unbelievable amounts go through your water system and make it all the way through till it comes out of your tap. So I started with a aqua sauna filter just in my kitchen sink, and I used that to cook, and I bought stainless steel bottles, and I carry my water with me everywhere I go. You don't want to be drinking it from plastic. Plastic makes you pay 2,000 times more for the water, and it gives you the bonus of toxins from the plastic that leaches into the water, and there's little micro pellets of plastic that go into the water. So you don't want to ever be drinking out of plastic if you can help it. Only time I drink out of plastic is when I get on an airplane, because they won't let me go through with my water in stainless bottles. So
you mentioned, I don't want to bypass this too quickly. You mentioned that we're getting inside the city water systems, we're getting all these toxic elements. We're getting pesticides and herbicides, pharmaceuticals, antidepressant, antibiotics, all kinds of medications. But we need to recognize that they're in very infinitesimal small quantities, very, very small quantities. But I don't want to over bypass this too quickly because, as you know about homeopathic remedies work on very infinitesimal amounts of substances that are toxic, but the body picks them up and is able to then turn the elements into healthy not consequences, but outcomes for the body. But when you're getting bombarded with all kinds of chemicals in small amounts, small parts per million, but you're still getting bombarded, it's going to really confuse your immune system and cause things like autoimmune disease. It's going to get your body to turn against itself. So you got to be careful.
There's a woman named Stephanie Sinoff who's at MIT who took it. She actually is a computer genius. She has her PhD in computer science, but her master's is in biological science. And she took on autism. And what she has discovered, she's come up with the conclusion that it's not one chemical, it's the cocktail of all of them coming together. So it's the pesticides and the herbicides and the stuff that's in micro amounts in your water, and it's the stuff you're getting in your food, and it's the stuff you're getting from all these chemicals in your home that start to create an imbalance in the body that is probably the source for autism and for all of our ill health. So all of these little chemicals, you may go, they're infinitesimal. They're not. Together, they add up to create havoc in your body, and your body can do the job as long as it can, or it can't keep up.
Yeah. So the average person doesn't have a clue that these things are affecting their body every single day, and neither does their doctor. Their doctor thinks, as you said when you first started off, that the government is regulating this stuff, and the reality, it's not.
Nope. And I did not know that doctors who go to medical school are going to schools that were opened and run by the pharmaceutical companies. So what they learn is only about what they should do with pharmaceuticals to help you along. They don't learn about food. Have you ever had a doctor tell you to lose weight and you go, how do I do that? And they go, I don't know, just eat less. That's because they don't learn anything about nutrition. At most, they get half a day in medical school. So you have to own
they get more nutrition in a home economics course than they do in medical school, or equivalent, put it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they know how, and once they graduate medical school, their main source of information is their pharmaceutical rep. Mm-hmm. So, you've got to own it. You need to do your own research. You need to take responsibility for your body. One more thing on water. I moved to an entire house system. We have 2 homes, one in LA, one in Sedona, Arizona. In Sedona, there's arsenic in the water. And I'm like a smoke alarm that goes off with any chemical in a 50-mile radius. So we put a full water system on our house in Sedona first, and then we put it on our house in LA. I don't want the toxins coming through my skin in the shower, in the bathtub, when my hands are in water. You don't want those toxic chemicals entering any of your pathways into the body.
Let's talk a little bit about the cooking utensils now, the toxins in cooking utensils.
Well, I loved it. Nothing stuck to it. And then I read an article that there were absolutely no birds in the area where the DuPont factory was because they all died. And then the people in the town where the Teflon factory was all started getting cancer. And so I threw that pan out. What you need is to be cooking with clean metals. And what is that? It's not aluminum. Aluminum is also toxic. It's not even probably most enamel things, because when they start chipping.
Time out. Hold on. Let's talk about aluminum, because when people cook with aluminum pots, and I want people to go to their kitchen after we're done with this podcast tonight, and I want you to go to your kitchen cabinet, if you've got aluminum pots or any aluminum cookware, and look at the bottom, and you'll see little pits at the bottom. Right. Those little pits are the aluminum that's leached off and into your food. And aluminum has been linked to Alzheimer's and other types of
And
chronic
it's
disease.
also all of our baking sheets, our baking pans, a lot of those are all aluminum, and you don't want that. You stainless steel to cook in because that is not a toxic.
Or glass.
Or glass, correct. Um, you can't afford to have that stuff leaching into your body. Truly, you can't. And you certainly don't want to be storing your food in plastic. I bought all glass containers with silicone lids to store my food. You cannot get completely away from plastic. Everything I bring home from the grocery store is in plastic, but you do the best you can and then you don't get twisty. But you certainly don't store your food in all of those little plastic containers that you throw away because they cost nothing. They do cost. They're costing your health and you can't afford that.
Yeah. So again, the average person doesn't think about these things. So I think we're really bringing up some practical points for people to think about, because when you start looking at all these things we're talking about tonight, it adds up and accumulates in your body, and the body has become overladen with all these toxins. It's struggling. It's not going to heal itself. Your immune system is not going to operate at optimal function if you have these toxic elements that you're exposed to all the time. So
even your cooking tools, like your spatulas, they make those out of cheap plastic things that leach out chemicals. You need stainless steel wherever possible, or silicone. Silicone, at least to this date, has not been found to be toxic like plastic is. So you have to pay attention to all this stuff. It's important.
Sure. So when people look to get these stainless steel or glassware, porcelainware is another one too. That's another one. I haven't found any toxic elements that get leached out with porcelain. Have you at all?
Um, Probably not. Porcelain probably is not toxic. I didn't eliminate any of the porcelain items that I had in my house.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Like the cookware. I'm trying to think of the name of the big brand that has the porcelain. But in any event, people need to start to take inventory of what's in their homes. And you can do this. I think you really brought up a good point. You don't have to do it all overnight. You don't have to go in your kitchen and just throw everything out.
no,
Just
you
eliminate things over time. That was a good point that you brought up.
yeah.
Do it step by step according to your plan.
Um, and really, each step away from something toxic is a step closer to health. You took how many years to get sick? It could take you a few years to get well, but it's worth it, and you do it step by step.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think some people are going to take charge right away and just go right into their kitchen and pull everything out and then go to the store and get some brand new stuff. And that's good, but you may want to take baby steps, and you can do it at your own pace. That's what we're talking about right now. Let's talk about some of the toxins that are in food, and let's talk about how we could get rid of those toxins that are in the food supply.
Number one, I just did a whole study on how Big Food has hired industrial scientists to make our processed food and our fast food non-food. All those things that are on those boxes, whether it's boxed, frozen, fast, or even most restaurant food now, all those things that you don't know what they are and you can't pronounce, your body doesn't know what they are either, and they're giving your body zero nutrition. So that's the first level of toxicity. You need to buy real food and you need to cook. So I want you to buy all the colors of the rainbow, because there are phytonutrients in that food that get together and party and create health in your body. They are gifts from nature. And you want, if you are eating red, you want to eat all different kinds of red, and you want to eat all different kinds of purple, because there's different gifts in each fruit and vegetable, and you want them all, and you want diversity. So
Yeah,
that
last week we had Dr. Minnick on. I'm not sure if you know who Dr. Minnick is, but she's a scientist who's written many books on the color code of food and how it has the phytochemicals that heal our bodies. So we went through a whole hour last week, and she did a marvelous job of talking about the diversity in the plants are the key elements to help our bodies to heal itself. And that's what you just brought up, diversity. So make sure, she talked about getting during the week 50 different different foods, at least 50 different foods with different colors. And so we need to focus on getting those colors. But if you're buying conventional, you're getting toxic
You're getting
elements like
pesticides
pesticides.
and herbicides, and those are poisons. And you really don't want them in your body. There is a wonderful website called What's on My Food. And you can look up the most popular fruits and vegetables, and it will tell you. Now, there's a list that EWG, again, the place where I did all of my research, there's a list that they bring out every year called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So my original recommendation was buy the Dirty Dozen organic, because that's where the worst toxins are, and don't worry about it if it's on the Clean 15. And in between, you do your best, whatever you can afford, you work them in. I buy everything organic. Broccoli just fell off the Clean 15. It has 47 toxins on it, and yet it was on the Clean 15 until this year. There are neurotoxins on broccoli. There are endocrine disruptors on broccoli. There are things that kill our bees, and if we lose our bees and our butterflies gang, we have no food. So
I had Dr. Blaylock on my program. Have you ever heard of Dr. Blaylock?
I actually have followed him since before I got sick. He was the first I got on natural health.
He's been on my radio program in the past several times, and he talks about the neurotoxicity of the things that we're being exposed to in our environment and in the food supply, and it really dives deep into that and did a marvelous job. He's written several books on it.
Right.
So you're spot on. You're spot on. There's all these things.
So he changed from being, I think, a heart doctor to studying all of this.
He's a neurosurgeon.
He lost his parents to dementia, and he wanted to figure out what was going on. And so I have read him for years, which is one reason I was so open to saying, I am not doing that. I'm going to find out what's wrong with my body.
Nice.
So, but it also makes a difference how close to the farm you can buy, because something like spinach, if it's harvested 3 days later, it begins to lose its phytonutrients. So the closer you can buy to the farm, easy for me to say I'm in California, but the closer you can buy to the farm, the better. It doesn't mean you don't buy organic vegetables from the grocer, but the closer you can buy from the farm, the more benefits you get from the phytonutrients that the plant food has.
Let's talk a little bit about the organic, how important it is to get organic foods.
It's crucial. I follow somebody who is, I consider, the leading expert on toxins. His name is Dr. Pizzorno. He has
Dr. Pizzorno, I'm very familiar. He's been on my radio program. Dr. Pizzorno. He started the Bastyr College of Naturopathy.
Right. He was one of the fathers of functional medicine, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
And, he's a big advocate of buying as close to the farm as possible and only buying organic, because you don't want those toxins in your body. And they go down to our groundwater. Again, the toxins start growing up in the plants. You can't afford to be eating all these toxins. And they're spraying, like wheat gets literally drenched in glyphosate, which is Roundup, which you all might know causes cancer, because they lost a major lawsuit. I think it was 2 years ago now. And they have already paid out $25 billion to people who got one kind of cancer. And they're all screaming with the courts that they can't afford this, but they're not even dealing with all the other health problems that this chemical has created.
Well, let's slow down for a minute and let's explain to our listening audience what glyphosate is, how it's related to this.
Glyphosate is called Roundup. Roundup is glyphosate. It recently got banned for home use, but it's still being sprayed on our conventional crops. And you do not want it in your food. GMOs, which are another issue, they ran on the ballot here in California. I had no idea, and I lost because there was so much misinformation. There are two kinds of GMOs. One is called Roundup Ready, where they have actually made the plant tolerant to enormous amounts of being sprayed by glyphosate. And we know glyphosate causes cancer. And then the other one is no better. It has Bt toxin grown up in it, so that when a bug bites it, it blows up his little stomach, but it also is blowing up all your good gut bacteria, which you desperately need for your health. So you don't want to be eating anything that's genetically modified either. And this is important with the Roundup part because we all eat wheat products. And wheat that's conventional, that is not organic, is literally drenched in Roundup because they get a bigger yield from it. So it makes more money for them when they drown it in Roundup. And none of that gets washed off, and it goes into all of our crackers and all of our breads and all of our flours and all of the products that we're eating in processed food. You don't want that. It's worth it to buy organic flour and organic flour products so that you stay away from the glyphosate because you don't want the cancer.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to just say for our listening audience benefit, we're talking right now about whole grains and something that I am an advocate of. And what a lot of people today are bashing these whole grains, and we need to distinguish between grains that are grown the way God intended with good, healthy soil and not having to use all the toxic elements, the pesticides and herbicides. So when you get those grains, they are going to be providing you good nutrition, and they're going to be giving you the vitamins, minerals, and trace minerals, and all the micronutrients and phytochemicals you need. So don't limit your grains. Now, here's a point, and Cheryl brought something up initially that I don't want to overlook. She talked about food sensitivities. I've been doing food sensitivity testing since 1986. And I found that that is one of the biggest factors, as Cheryl found out with her condition, that food sensitivities are a major contributor to many people's chronic illness. It's not the only thing, but it's a major contributor. And many times it's the most significant. And so we don't want to say all wheat is bad or all gluten grains are bad, because people are bashing gluten grains. And what they may be doing in turn is eating, maybe eliminating the gluten grains, but they are literally still eating foods that they're highly toxic to their bodies and they're sensitive to, but they have no clue. But they've heard that all gluten was bad. So don't all gluten grain. You got to get tested to know if you're sensitive.
Gluten-free bothered my body a whole lot more than gluten flours because I was originally told I was gluten sensitive. I went to Italy and I was eating pasta because they weren't sprayed with glyphosate, and I figured out I didn't have a gluten problem. I had a glyphosate problem. So
thank you so much for sharing that right there. I believe that right there. I am going to take that, what you just said, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube, my Facebook. I'm going to share that because this is the point I'm trying to make. There are other factors that people are suffering with symptoms that may not be related to the gluten, and they're eliminating the gluten like you did, and they still have the symptoms, but then you found out it was something else. Thank you so much.
Right. So I am a huge advocate in having you have a conversation with yourself in the mirror every morning. And I ask myself two questions. How do I feel today? And then I get quiet and I let my body answer. And what do you need me to do for you today? Because I have discovered my body is very smart. And if I listen to it, it will allow me to adjust before I get back into trouble. So every single morning, faithfully, I have that conversation in the mirror. Then I practice gratitude and I do a couple other things. But you have to be aware of how your body feels. People wanted me to, non-gluten products. I was reacting to all of them. I was having a terrible problem with them. So my body was telling me, And then I discovered that it wasn't the gluten after all, because I got exposed to products that were organic, whole grain products. So talk to your body and listen to what it tells you, because it will tell you when you're right and when you're wrong, and you can adjust immediately.
Awesome. This is love it. I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about how people can buy organic on a budget.
Well, I actually have a course coming out probably by May. That's everything you ever wanted to know about food and didn't know who to ask. The first thing you do is you look at your budget and figure out where are you spending money that you don't need to be spending it. Do you really need to stop for your local coffee every morning on your way to work? Could you save that money? Because organic is so important. You need to find areas in your budget that you can save that money. But then you start to utilize the whole plant. I now make pesto out of my carrot tops, and I cook the leaves of my cauliflower because they're yummy and they're nutritious and they're good for you. I don't throw away my broccoli stems anymore. When I cook, I keep a bag in the freezer of my onion skins and my garlic skins and my carrot bottoms and tops and my carrot tops and the roots that I take off of things. That goes into a bag in my freezer that becomes the beginning. You utilize all parts of the plant.
You broke up. That becomes the beginnings for what?
For making soup broth.
Yes. I do that all the time.
Onion skins themselves are loaded with quercetin, which is nature's natural antihistamine. So you don't want to be throwing because it's loaded with good things for your body. But then you teach people how to pick the right vegetable and fruit, how to store it, what to store it near, when you put it on the middle shelf, when you put it in the crisper drawer, what you put it next to and what you don't put it next to, because they do off-gassing and will make each other rot. You need to know all this stuff so that your organic food, which is not plastic and which will rot, but you want it to last as long as it possibly can, unlike conventional things that might not, but that are also no nutrition for your body. So you need to buy the real thing, and then you need to find out how to make the most out of it so that you never lose any of it and you get all the money. Plus it saves food waste, which is important because we want to all be aware of climate change. So you want to utilize the whole plant. So I put a whole course together that even gets into what are the essential nutrients in each plant. And then finally, what are the phytonutrient gifts, which are what makes the plant the colors that they are, but those are the building blocks for you to be rebuilding all your cells, and your cells are rebuilding all the time. Your gut rebuilds its lining every 6 days. Your lungs rebuilds its lining, I think it's every 2 weeks. Even your brain, all those cells rebuild. They didn't think they did, but they do. They're constantly regenerating. And you need proper building supplies that you need to be putting in your body that you're not going to get from that dead gray food that's processed. You need the real thing so that your body has all the building supplies so that you are constantly building with only quality materials.
Okay, sure. I wanted to ask you, do you have a good internet connection? Because we keep on going in and out. Is your connection okay? Because we keep on going in and out.
It should be, and I don't know why that is, but here, let me move a little closer and stop moving. I'm jerking around, so that may be what's causing it.
Yeah, because I should have mentioned that earlier. Initially, I thought maybe it was mine because I need to get a new adapter. I guess that's what they told me today with AT&T, so I can not lose the internet. My computer is so far away from my modem that I have problems sometimes. I thought it was me. But in any event, do you have any suggestions? Because organic can be expensive. Do you have any suggestion for people to get organic foods at reasonable prices?
Shop at farmers markets as much as you can. Now, I'm lucky. I have farmers markets year round because I'm in California and we're the food basket for the United States. But when you can, go to a farmer's market, because if you go early and you get to know the farmer, or you go late, sometimes late, they sell things at a discounted price. So you're getting prime food that was picked the day before that's prime with all the phytonutrients to take home and to cook with. So that's your first step. Buy in season. It's supply and demand. So we're in the fall season. So winter squash is in season. It will be at the best possible price now, and winter squashes last. So if you find ways to make winter squashes and you buy all the different colors of the winter squashes, those are all really good for your body. So buy in season. There's actually even a company where you can put in your zip code and it will tell you what's in season from month to month. I could send you what the name of it is, but there's a way to know what you're going to be able to find when you go to your farmer's market. But go get to know your farmer. Talk to him about how he's growing his food. Talk to him about what he's about bugs, because you want to know. I'm a city girl. I don't get to the farm very often, but you want to know what he's doing, and you want to know, like, and trust him so that you know what you're buying, that you're going to be putting into your body. I do buy at grocers. I only buy at better grocers that sell organic food. There are organic foods now, and even the Krogers and the Safeways of the world. You can find organic food everywhere. Make sure that that's what you're buying, and then learn how to store it. Little things like if you buy lettuce and you store it by ripping its leaves, it thinks that a deer ate it. So it's going to regenerate all its gifts because it creates those gifts to make the deer not eat it. If you learn how to do that, so you're getting all the beauty of the phytonutrients from your food, you're getting more bang for your buck. And you're not
bang for your buck. Speaking bang for your buck, let me give a couple tips to our listening audience that I've found to be very, very practical. As you said, you can buy organic just about anywhere now, including Walmart, including Aldi's, including Trader Joe's, and multiple other places that are able to give you reasonable prices that I find that you're able to get your organic produce at what you would buy them at a larger supermarket, and that saves you a lot of money. So, and then buy on sale. Always buy on sale, and then you can buy extra and then maybe eat those foods for that particular week. Or sometimes if you buy frozen, you could freeze them. That's a really good tip for people to take home.
Organic vegetables. That's a positive. If they start to wilt or start to get old, you put them in the freezer. You lay them out on a tray until they freeze, and then you bag them up and they're ready to go. And if you freeze them, they maintain all their gifts for your body. So you're not.
We're going to we have a few minutes, and I want to get a question in here before we leave. I want to ask you this question, and I've just really enjoyed my time with you this evening. I'm sure our listening audience has as well. And I'm sure we'll have you back in the future. But let me just ask you this. What's one thing that you think is the most important thing for people to stay healthy? And what do you do? What's the most important thing for you?
With clients, I always start with food, because if you're not feeding your body all the phytonutrients, you don't have the building blocks for health. So you need to get away from all of those processed foods. You need to cook. You need to buy real food, and you need to eat as many colors of the rainbow as possible, because that's what builds your body from the inside out. You're eating from what I call the pharmacy, Pharmacy, and you don't need the pharmacy, the PHAR one. You need all of those beautiful phytonutrients. From there, then you work on stress, then you work on sleep, then you work on eliminating all the other toxins in your life. You even work on toxic relationships that can be creating havoc in your health. But you start with food, because that's the foundational piece.
Awesome. Well, I want to share with you that, this has been a really wonderful experience for me. I love your energy. I love your passion. You've got so much fire. Don't lose that fire. Keep it up. Go get him, girl. Thank you so much.
The way America eats. I'm out there to do that. So,
okay, well, listen, take care, and we'll keep in touch with you. And I'll send you a copy of this so you can share it with your family, your friends, and your listening audience as well.
Thank you. It was fun.
Have a good life.